Groove your way to a new you. These are the kind of stupid ideas that hit me when I'm running on the treadmill and I'm thinking, I really need to lay down a daily dose. And I'm thinking about some of the personal development stuff that I did today, some of the reading that I did, some of the listening that I did. Right now, by the way, I'm listening to James Arthur Ray and his audiobook, Harmonic Wealth. And it's really good stuff. If you have a chance to grab Harmonic Wealth by James Arthur Ray, it's really, really good stuff. Now, he's a little ethereal at times, okay? So take the good stuff and leave the stuff that you don't particularly care for. Some of his views on religion are not necessarily my own, but I love all of his insights on health, on mentality. It's great stuff. Harmonic Wealth by James Arthur Ray. So I'm listening to that today, and one of the things that he was talking about was why we as human beings, sometimes we seem to fall down a lot when we're trying to establish a new pattern or a new habit or a new way of life, or we're trying to elevate our health or our wealth or our, whatever it is we're working on, right? Sometimes we're trying to create a better, more healthy body, or we're trying to watch our language, or maybe we're trying to curb our diet or our drinking consumption, right? Or stop smoking, or stop being angry, or we're trying to curb worrying, or we're trying to develop new financial habits of saving rather than spending. Whatever it is you're working on, whatever it is you're trying to do, have you noticed that sometimes it's really difficult? And so we try and we try for a little bit, and it doesn't seem to be working out, and then it just kind of fades, and that's why people just constantly seem to go back to their old habits. And the question is, why do we always run back to old habits? And here's the answer. Because when you make certain decisions, or when you began making certain decisions, what happens is in the brain, you have certain synapses that fire in certain sequences when you're engaging in whatever activity or whatever habit is being formed by the decisions that you're making. And as those synapses fire often enough, believe it or not, they create a groove, like water through the sand. If you pour water across the sand enough times, eventually it will create a groove. And then pretty much no matter where you pour the water, it finds its way into that groove and off it goes. And so it goes with habits in our own mind. You see, if you make one decision or move in a certain direction or do a certain thing often enough, or if you respond in a certain way to a certain stimulus often enough, you will wear a groove in your brain. And then you'll find your brain wants to work in that groove more often and more often and more often. And that's why, so if anger becomes a habit, for example, you'll find over time that you'll become angrier more easily, because more things will find their way into that worn groove, and the groove will become wider and will catch even more things. And so that's why bad habits tend to become worse over time. Good habits aren't necessarily that way, right? But that's why those types of things happen. So what's the answer? Why do people always seem to go back to their bad habits or back to their old ways of doing things? Maybe that's a better way to say it. Why do we always seem to revert back to what we know and what's comfortable? Why are we so scared and so unwilling to get out of our comfort zone? And the answer is because it's hard, okay? The brain naturally wants to take you to the path of least resistance. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you were trying to take a walk through the woods, and you were trying to go from point A to point B. And you look in the woods, and there's a path, a worn path. And it's two-body persons wide, and it's worn smooth, and there's no leaves, no rocks, no twigs, no sticks, no tree trunks, no nothing, no overhang, no brush. And you could just walk right along that path. Or you could decide to crawl through the trees and over the logs and through the weeds and the poison oak and everything else. Which would be easier? Of course, it would be easier to take the worn path. Well, that's exactly what your brain is doing. However, if that path takes you somewhere you don't want to go, then what you need to do is wear a new path in your brain. And that's difficult. Imagine, if that path were to take you to one place in the woods that you didn't want to go, you wanted to go someplace else, you'd have to blaze your own trail, wouldn't you? You'd have to create your own new groove. And so you'd need a machete and a chainsaw and some tools, and it might take you a really long time, and it would be really hard. But once you made that path, the next time you went to take it, wouldn't it be just a little bit easier? And the next time it'd be just a little bit easier. And the next time a little bit easier. And oh, by the way, while that path the new path that you created was becoming more and more and more accessible and worn and open and easy to follow, the old path would become overgrown and closed in and much more difficult to travel. And over time, you would find that the new path has now become the path of least resistance. And so now going where you want to go becomes effortless. So Brian, you say, what's the answer? How do we groove a new path? And my answer to you is sheer willpower, sheer desire, sheer just make a decision and do it. But see, the reason why most people fall back into their own habits is because they don't see results. They don't understand that eventually it will get easier. They don't understand that eventually they will wear a new groove. They don't understand that eventually this new way, this new line of thinking, this new decision making will become the path of least resistance. But now that you know that it will, you have the power to change anything in your life you want to change. You can quit smoking, you can lose weight, you can get better health, you can find a perfect relationship, you can make more money, you can do anything in your life you want to do now because you understand that even though it seems impossible and it seems really hard, if you can focus your effort long enough on grooving a new path, on grooving a new line in your brain, you can change any behavior you want, and in time, it will become effortless. Imagine if saving money, making more money, maintaining even keel. Imagine if not cursing, not over drinking, not overeating. Imagine if smiling and being positive were all just natural. They just happened automatically, effortless in your life. Imagine if creating strong relationships and encouraging people and generating wealth and all of these things. Imagine if your spirituality and obedience to whatever you consider your moral and ethical code, imagine if all of those things were just effortless for you. Can you imagine how your life would be? It can be. You have the power to change it. So go make it a great day.